And it is time for Bet on It, DB.
Yes, indeed.
There's a story going around about the Toronto Blue Jays failing to reach an agreement with one Vladimir Guerrero
Yeah,
Jr.
yeah,
Now, if you look at the numbers, Vladdy Jr., very productive baseball player. And then you look at some photos of him at spring training, and I go, I don't know that I want to pay that guy.
yeah.
He doesn't. Listen.
There's lots of good food in Toronto, though.
There's
this,
lots of good food, a lot of places.
this place has since closed, I think. But
Yeah.
there used to be this place called Marche's.
Mhm.
I used to call it Marchies, and it would make the French Canadians pretty pissed.
Sure.
And it's basically like grocery shopping in different ethnic groups, but it was like a walk-in buffet.
Okay.
But they would cook it like right there, so you could go shop at Little Italy. You could go, go to Guyana. You could go to America,
Okay.
and it was sensational. And I was like, if I lived here, and I didn't have to pay the 33% GST, I'd be fat.
Yeah.
I'd be fat.
So you
And there
think
were so many good places. I mean, they have Tim Hortons. Have you ever had a Timbit?
no?
I mean, Timbits are fan. I'm sure Vlad looks like a guy that could partake in a few Timbits.
You're betting on that?
I'm a bet on that. So there's just opportunities to get in trouble. It's like if I lived in New Orleans,
Sure.
I would be obese.
You have some issues.
Yes, I'd be obese.
You big beignets guy?
No, it wouldn't be sweets. That's where you'd start.
No, I like beignets a lot.
This po' boy would be eating po' boys. You know what I mean? No. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
But somebody's going to pay him.
Somebody will.
And I don't, I'm not here for like body shaming or anything, but when you're looking at paying a 25-year-old guy who can't stay in shape,
yeah.
I mean, what would be the going rate for a guy that averages 30 home runs, 100 RBIs, and a 8 to 900 OPS every year?
Well, that's funny because he does play the corner,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if you love the home run production, but we did talk about like numbers in baseball have kind of changed,
Sure,
and fluctuated.
Yeah,
where we were talking about making changes in sports,
and how you kind of have to adjust your eye to the benchmarks.
Baseball's tricky.
Yeah,
you gave. I don't know if you want to reset. I don't want to act like it was my analogy, but I thought the steroid era and then the home run thing, and then looking at it now was a fantastic example.
Yeah, so I mean, through most of baseball history, 30 to 40 home runs was a great year. And then you had sort of this 15 to 20 year span where 40 home runs was kind of just like, oh, that's okay.
20 may be long, but yeah.
Yeah, 15. I call it 15, right? Like early 90s to early 2000s, late 80s to early 2000s, somewhere in there. You had this stretch where it's like, yeah, if you were getting 50 a year, then you weren't an elite power hitter. And obviously you had that mini stretch where 60 a year and then a couple 70s in there as well. And so after the steroid era kind of got cleaned up a little bit, you had to readjust your eye to say, oh, if you get to 40, that's a great year. Anybody that gets to 50, that's an historic year. And then you've got, your outlier Aaron Judge year as well in there. And so it's really hard to look at because I'm used to growing up as a late 90s, early 2000s baseball fan. And I go like, okay, like, yeah, he had the 1 year with 48, but 32, 26, 30 in the next 3 years as a power hitter at a corner position. I kind of go like, I'd like to see a little bit more than that. I'd like to be in the mid to high 30s if I'm going to pay this guy $30-40 million a year to go be my corner infielder for the next 10, 12 years, because that's probably what we're talking about is a 10 to 12 year contract somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 to $400 million. Like I would imagine that's what he's looking for. Mm-hmm. And at that body type, I probably don't.
Are you pitting against the productivity, or are you trying to
both? Yeah.
Okay.
Like the more productive he is, the more I can overlook the body type. Right? Like if he goes 48, 42, 36,
he's
40.
Like the anti-Myles Garrett, right? You look at you look at how
he's built.
And he appears to be committed. You're like, yeah, I'll pay that guy.
100%. You look at a guy that looks to be, but I mean, there's something about being a professional athlete. I get baseball's different, but there's something about being a professional athlete. It's the reason I hated Pablo Sandoval.
Right.
When he got signed with the Red Sox.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what are you paying that guy for?
Yeah.
He obviously doesn't have a ton of interest in being committed professionally. right? And I get being in shape looks different for different people, but there's nobody in their right mind that can look at Vladdy Jr. and be like, oh, that guy's got himself in great shape. I think it's part of the problem you have with Luka, where you're like, hey, that guy
6 turnover Luka last night.
six turnover Luka.
5 of 18 Luka.
You
I
know?
mean, not that I was paying attention.
I think you have as many problems with the 6 apple and cherry turnovers as he has the ones he has in the games, though, right? Like if that guy's in great shape and has committed himself to being in great shape, you feel dramatically better about that trade, don't
100%.
you? See? It's like it's the issue I had with James Harden. James Harden never looked like he was in very good shape.
Although apparently frumpy James Harden is a good basketball player because he's playing well.
He is playing well, but it was one of the issues I had with him. Like, I don't want to pay a guy if I don't feel like, and at 25 years old, if you're already struggling with these things, it's not like metabolism famously does not get better as you age.
So his home run total last year was only in the 30s?
It was 30 even. He was at 26 the year before. And
what did he play, 140?
He played 159. He played the whole damn year.
Okay, so I don't know whether that's hard for me to do something with because, in one instance, I'm like, he doesn't miss time.
Yeah.
Because I'd have pegged him for like a 148 guy.
Sure.
He doesn't miss time. So.
But on the other hand, the power numbers become less impressive.
Yeah, but the productivity from leaving the yard was a little different. What I think I would pay.
You think you'd pay him?
I think I would.
Because the opportunity cost of losing him is worse than the chance that his body doesn't hold up.
Yeah. Because he's not missing time.
And that's fair. I mean, he's been remarkably durable. So starting in 2020, which was his second full year, it was 60 games, which was the most in the league because of the COVID year. He went 60, he went 161, 160, 156, 159. Like, the dude plays. The dude plays every day.
Yeah, I just think baseball is weird right now.
But when he's 32, am I going to feel great about that contract?
I don't know because expenditures and money, it's on the lips of everybody now.
Yeah.
Because of Manfred's stance and what he said about the Dodgers. And then you had Atanasio, the Brewers owner, say what he said, and which was basically, hey, listen, we're built to compete at a certain point, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm Brewers fans, I'm probably kind of pissed.
Don't feel great about it.
But also, your commissioner didn't help you because I think if his message is a little different, because he basically, my takeaway from that, and this is as a Dodgers fan, was, hey man, everybody can play the game. It's not that big of a deal. Versus, hey, listen, what we need to do is take a look at these cash expenditures and how to escrow money because it's what's going to happen. It's what's happening in football.
Yeah.
Right? People will look. That's why when you went through the quarterbacks thing, I was talking about cash.
Yeah.
Like, people are probably like, man, DB, like, what's the difference? Well, it's a huge difference because in the NFL, you got to spend. If you don't spend 89% of your cash flow within 3 years, you have to give away. You're part of the give back program.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So it's like
there's a salary floor.
Yeah.
There's
in baseball.
Yeah.
You want people to be spending their made money.
Yes.
So maybe he could have talked a little bit more about
and make no mistake
know-how or what being cash strapped versus cash flow really means in baseball. Like he was a little dismissive, which I didn't appreciate for the good of the game.
Yeah.
But I do understand what he's saying because it's the case that I was trying to make. Like,
there's nothing stopping these
you
other
can
teams.
Spend some of your cash.
There's nothing stopping these other teams from doing this. And do you remember the exercise I went through the other day of, hey, this is how much revenue they brought in versus this is how much money they spent?
You can spend some of your cash.
Every single team in the league can afford the Dodgers roster.
And the thing about it is, and what you're figuring out in football, if you get inside the numbers of cash and having money in escrow. So, yeah, the Chiefs can defer Mahomes' salary.
They still have to put that money aside.
It has to show up in the escrow.
Yes.
Like, you have to have the cash
that was the big
readily available.
That was the big thing with the Raiders when they traded Khalil Mack because they signed – who else did they sign at the same time? Was it Crosby at the same time? They didn't have the escrow cash to pay both of them at the same time. And so, yeah, I just if I'm a baseball fan, I would love the commissioner to be like, hey, not only can you all spend money, I see your balances. Like, you all need to be spending money.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the next thing for Major League Baseball is forcing those teams to spend money.
I probably would play Vlad. I have to look at the going rate for corner guys, though.
There's too many teams in Major League Baseball that run their franchises like private equity firms. They're more concerned about the bottom line than the product. And at the end of the day, that's not a great way to run a franchise.
100%.